myself. I'm a member of the Vancouver Public Library Board. It is a pleasure to welcome you tonight to the Heart of the City Festival, featuring Michael Christie and his new book, If I Fall, If I Die. At events like this one, the Library Board always likes to recognize that we are on traditional Coast Salish territory, and we would also like to thank our sponsors, the Canada Council, for sponsoring tonight's program. The VPL is committed to supporting lifelong learning through diverse collections and programs like this one tonight. If you're interested in learning more about the programs of the VPL, you can find a brochure that looks a lot like this one on a table back there. I would highly recommend you go take a look. The Heart of the City Festival is continuing until November 8th. If you would like to learn more about what's going on with the rest of the festival, you can find a program guide that looks like this one, also on a table right behind you. Where are we? So you're welcome to stay after the event tonight for a book signing, skateboarding sessions in the ramp, and music by Murray Acton and Shiloh Lindsay. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Michael Christie and Carnegie branch head Natalie Porter. Please give me a warm welcome.
Thanks, John. Yeah, as mentioned, Natalie Porter, the Carnegie branch head, and thank you so much to Michael for joining us, accepting the invitation to be part of Heart of the City Festival. Really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Right on. So yeah, the first part, we're just going to go through a bit of an interview so you can get some context about Michael's writing. Stressing the theme of the Heart of the City Festival this year is nurtured by community. So I'm just going to ask, what are some of the communities that have nurtured you in your writing?
I just want to say thanks everyone for coming. This is the coolest place I've ever done any kind of reading by a million miles. The communities that nurture my writing, I guess, like this community, the Downtown East Side. I worked here for 10 years in an emergency shelter and also various organizations, and I found it to be an exciting and just really like nurturing time and it's sort of like when I decided that I wanted to actually try to be a writer, I guess. So I mean, this one, I also have like a community of writing friends who I share my work with, and just general non-writing dummy friends who are here who are like semi-supportive. Yeah, they're here.
Very good. So on this connect, when you first began writing and developing short stories, did you imagine that they'd be published? And what was this process like of getting published?
I mean, it was always like my sort of, I call myself like a closeted writer for many years. Like I was skateboarding and doing all kinds of other stuff, but I would go home and kind of like read fiction, like in secret, and like not really tell anybody that I wrote, and because it just felt so lame to say like I'm gonna be a writer and be like Ernest Hemingway, like it just seems too cliche. So I never admitted it to anyone. But then once I started, I got into, I never showed my writing to anyone, and I applied to the UBC MFA program, who take like 10 people a year, just like on a total, like, yeah, right, this is not going to happen, and I got in. And so I went to that, and at that point I started to realize, like, okay, maybe, like, these people are human beings, they're writers, and they publish stuff, like, why can't I do that? So that was how it happened. I still can't believe it. Like I was just telling a story earlier. I was on an airplane recently, and I sat down, and the woman beside me pulled out my book. Check, gets better though. Just wait. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, oh my God, she got my book. Oh my God, this is crazy. Do I say something? This is really embarrassing. And she was like in the window, and And so she was reading, and I looked, and she was like near the end. And so I'm like, is she going to finish while we're on this flight? Like, and then, so she got to the end, and she just sort of finished it, and she shut it, and then she sort of put it down, and I was like looking at it, like trying to see like the experience of finishing it. And then she just kind of looked out the window and looked kind of like bored. I didn't say anything to her. And she didn't recognize me at all. She was like, who's this little kid you're sitting next to? Sorry, I should change the story. I should say that we had an amazing connection.
Well, your latest book is exploring agoraphobia, and you had a personal experience with that. And so I was just wondering if your writing has provided either like new insights or kind of a healing process as a result of writing it?
Yeah, I mean, I was very like upfront during the conception of this book and in the writing and now the publication of it. I wrote an essay about my mom's agoraphobia for the New York Times. We published it, and so it's out in the open. And yeah, my mom was agoraphobic when I was growing up, which she didn't leave the house for like a year period at one point, and there are other spans of 6 months, 8 months, that kind of thing. So while the main character of this book, or one of the main characters, named Diane, she's severely agoraphobic, and she is sort of based on my mom. It's not like a memoir, it's not true, but it's heavily kind of rooted in my experience. And was it healing? I don't know. I don't know if we ever heal. We just kind of get around stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of the characters, Will and Sloan Diane, they find a lot of creative inspiration in magical worlds and cities in their home. So I'm just curious about your own travels and, living in both rural and urban settings, and just how it's kind of been fodder for writing.
Yeah, well, as a backstory, the two don't leave their house, Diane and Will. Will's a 10-year-old boy, and they order food in, they order clothes, they name the rooms of the house after cities of the world. So the kitchen is called Paris, and the bathroom they call Venice, and the bedroom they call San Francisco, and the basement they call Toronto, which is like a good joke to play on my Toronto editor. And so they create, like, it sounds sort of dreary, like people could have compared the book to Room, which I don't know if anyone's read Room, but they actually create this kind of amazing world of art and literature and fun stuff, and that's actually very much what my mom and I did. Like, she was an early childhood educator, and she, like, was doing DIY art projects before the word DIY existed, and she like made everything for us, sewed me clothes, like we were knitting Afghans, and so like I really attribute my own sort of like desire to be an artist to her. That didn't answer your question at all. It's a different question.
We're here at the SBC restaurant, and it was intentionally chosen as a venue because of the connection to skateboarding. And the fact that your protagonist is a skateboarder, kind of finding his way in the world. So what advice would you give to a young person like Will, either practical advice as a skateboarder, or as someone just kind of coming into himself and finding their identity?
Well, I think, like, for me, skateboarding was an absolutely, like, transformative thing to connect with. Like, I tried to play sports. I grew up in a hockey town, like, tried to play hockey. The coach would yell at me. I would just, like, run. Like, I didn't want to deal with it. I hated competing with other kids. I hated scores. I just didn't connect with that whole world. And so, for me, like, finding skateboarding, which is non-competitive, it is, like, self-directed, and is like more an art than it is a sport, I would argue. It's kind of like dancing. Don't tell anybody. And for me, it just changed my life. Like, I saw skateboarding, and it was just like, it replaced 80% of my brain. And I did it every day, for my life, pretty much, and I still dream about it, I still think about it. So I think, I attribute a lot of who I am to skateboarding, and a lot of the people that I've met have been through skateboarding, including my friends. And so, advice to a kid, I don't know, I think we don't give kids unstructured time to go and roll around in a parking lot and make dumb jokes and fall down and learn how to skateboard as much as we should. I don't think so. I think to tell kids to follow their interests, whatever they are, is the best advice I could muster.
Would that apply to your kids?
Yeah. Who aren't? I have two boys who are 2 and 6, and they're not interested in skateboarding at all. And I'll do tricks for them, and they're just that's so lame. You're so boring, Dad.